Hello, everyone, and welcome to WERXFEST, CloudWorks' celebration of innovation, insight, and the kind of big, bold thinking that shapes what's next. I'm Alyssia, Tennant, Chief Growth Officer here at CloudWorks, and I'm thrilled to be your moderator today for a conversation that I think might shift the way you think about AI forever. Our session is titled Ready for AI, Start with Your Data. And that's not just a suggestion, it's a signal. Because here's the truth, most conversations about AI start in the wrong place. They start with shiny models, lofty promises, and sometimes even a little bit of magic. But in practice, AI only performs as well as the data that you give it. I'm joined today by someone who lives at the intersection of strategy, architecture, and applied intelligence, Jacqueline Sprott, AI Solutions Architect at CloudWorks. Jackie works with some of the most complex client environments in our ecosystem, helping businesses not just use AI, but integrate in a way that is sustainable, secure, and frankly, smart. She brings a hands-on perspective about how enterprises can avoid the hype and unlock real AI value. Welcome, Jackie. It's great to have you with us today.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here on the WERXFEST stage talking about data.
Now, titles can tell you about what someone does, but and restart that bit. Now, titles can tell you what someone does, but stories tell you why. So before we jump into today's topic, can you walk us through your journey to becoming an AI solutions architect?
Yeah, sure. It kind of started from humble beginnings on the floor of a call center at a startup. At the time, it was, processes weren't actually that well established. So I got really good at downloading reports and making them into process and doing that data transformation. So as that business evolved, I got more into the analyst space, and I managed to find my way into Lightfold, who has since been acquired by CloudWorks, where I started off as an analytics engineer. From there, I got really invested in data engineering, but also human-centered design, which helped really round out the architectural foundations of what not what we can build, but what is the best thing to build for businesses. So from there, I managed to dive head deep in, is that the word? Head deep? Neck deep.
Head first?
Head first? All right. From there, I dived headfirst into the world of AI because it actually is the intersection of your data strategy, but also human-centered design and language, which was really exciting, a really exciting space to be in. So from there, I've just been immersed into building enterprise level AI, and it's been a really exciting journey. Never would I have thought 10 years ago that I'd be here.
I don't think any one of us would think that we would be right here at this particular moment, and in this emergence of AI. But it's wonderful to kind of hear your story, and I love the fact that you're really talking about human-centered design. You're talking about that, outside in approach in understanding the customer and how data actually plays an important role in that. But it's still all about the customer, which is great. What do you think business leaders often misunderstand about their role, their own data when deploying AI?
I think I think everyone thinks that it's a big hurdle to actually get your data in a space where it's ready, but it's a balancing act of actually going, let's get your data in a usable in a way that's going to enable the LLM, but it's also trying to dispel the magic of AI. Once you actually understand how it works, and even propagating that knowledge of how AI works and how it interacts with your system, and it really makes people understand why it's so useful to actually implement into your business. So I think that's probably one of the things that we want to help people go on that journey of that change management, but also that education journey of what is this magic machine actually doing behind the scenes.
Yeah, education is power, right? So lovely to hear. Now, I know that you and I have a lot of corridor conversations and you talk about noise. So let's talk about noise. In the world of AI, what is noisy context and what does it really look like?
I think it's just messy data. So I think to take everyone on a journey, I want to actually introduce you to someone very special who will be our headlining act for today's presentation. And that is our superstar, Gillie Eilish. And Gillie Eilish is actually going to be a metaphor throughout this presentation for your LLM agent. Um, I think from a first principles stance, what people actually need to understand is that your LLM doesn't have that great of a memory. It's actually just taking in what's around it. So how is your aquarium set up? What's actually going on? So when we are thinking of an LLM, we want to think about its environment. So ideally, you would actually have a clean tank, but I think where a lot of people are on that tank on the right, where it's a bit murky. There's algae growing everywhere because it's got duplicated data. It could have unverified data, outdated data. It's really about what data you actually surround the LLM in. Um, and if it's noisy, it's going to mean that the LLM is actually trying to filter through the noise to actually get to a good answer. So that's why the data strategy is actually really at the forefront, because if you're overloading your data into your LLM, it can get a bit hard to actually navigate around all the data. It's kind of like, I know in my laptop, I have a lot of drafts, I have a lot of messy data. I haven't put a lot of time and energy into actually managing my folder structure. So if I imagine just putting my entire computer's folder structure into an LLM, it's going to be quite messy for the LLM to actually understand A, what I want, but B, am I actually pulling the right data into the answer? So that's why I guess having so much noise in your data can be a bit confusing for the LLM, and that's where you get that degradation of performance.
You know what? I'm hazarding a guess that the data queen has probably got her folders pretty structured on her laptop. I find that very difficult to actually believe. Okay, so we've met Gillie, lovely name, Gillie. How can AI help clean and classify the very data that it's using?
Absolutely. So I think a lot of businesses are, oh my gosh, we actually now need to invest a lot in our data. But the reality is you're actually introducing another act into the tank. And we're introducing Tank Ocean, who is an albino shrimp and keeps things clean. So you can actually use AI as another solution to the issue, and a secondary agent that can clean your in-flight data. If you're implementing it into a CRM like we do a lot, you actually have that, you can have that gate where someone saves a record and it gets processed through an LLM to actually understand, A, is the field populated, but B, is it actually populated in a way that is useful to the business and can actually enhance the insights later down on the track. So by implementing a secondary LLM, you're actually cleaning your data as it's coming in and taking away some of the more unhygienic practices that can happen. I think an example is if you're in a very like high fast-moving environment and like a call center where you need to take notes at the end of a call and you only have 1 minute to do it. We're all human. It's probably not going to be the easiest thing to capture everything that happened on the call, action what you need to do next, and then write it in a note format that's going to be completely understandable for the next person like to pick up. So that's where the LLM is actually quite powerful, is you can take that context of what happened on the call and you can summarize it. You can actually format it into a standardized format, and you can and it makes it a lot easier for the information to actually get into the system as well.
That's fantastic, and it's such a great example, call center. I can just imagine, I know, Jackie, that you've actually worked in a call center before, so this is something a topic that you actually know well. Um, I can just imagine that having that standardization, that one way of describing what actually happened to the call, being able to quickly flick through the notes, and it's completely standardized across the business, would have a huge impact on productivity. So that's an amazing example. And have you seen this work hybrid where we've had sort of the AI and also human sort of QA and clean the data?
Absolutely. I think it's important, especially as AI is still so young, to have that human verification and validation of what the LLM is trying to do. It's not always going to get it right, but as you get more, as it gets more integrated, by having that human validation, you can actually understand how we can use the AI to really empower the human. And I think that's the aim that we're going for, is we're trying to really make some of those more admin heavy, burdensome tasks a little easier so that it helps the human, but B, it also kind of makes the customer experience a little better. In that same call center example, if having worked in the call center, if I didn't understand the person who previously took that call's notes, I'm doing this whole 3 minutes of discovery, which impacts the customer experience. So I feel like it just helps streamline. And if you validate the notes, validate the records after that secondary LLM goes in, you can actually be confident with what the data is, and it makes it a lot more seamless for everyone involved.
Great. So now we've got Tank Ocean in the tank with Gilly, and you're going to talk us through what we can actually expect with both of these two agents working together.
Yeah, I think it's also there's a kind of third element of an LLM in the tank. So you've got cleaner water, but also when you are actually setting up the tank, you need to choose the right water. So I think Tank and Gilly belong in a freshwater tank. So that is the source that you should be using when trying to fill the tank. This essentially comes down to, where are you actually sourcing your data? You want to source the data from the right places, but also before it even gets to the tank, you want to actually treat the water. So that's what RAG is. It's retrieval augmented generation. So the retrieval is finding the source, but also augmenting the data. So it's actually going to be a lot more directed and a lot more targeted to the LLM. So it's easier to actually fill the tank with what's relevant and what allows the LLM to thrive. This could look like metadata tagging of your data, so that you can filter, order, and sort through the data and feed it to the LLM or even different LLMs, which really helps in scaling scaling your implementations, is by having that retrieval augmented generation along the way.
Right. And finally, Jackie, what do you see as the biggest upside for businesses that get this right early?
To get this right early, it enables scaling at a really quick pace. So by actually understanding your data model and how you can quickly source, but also take your data on the journey of being augmented and how it actually interacts with your business. So it means that you're able to actually fill the tank, but then also expand the tank with more organisms, and it can be quite the ecosystem where it's not just one LLM agent, you can actually have multiple that perform different roles, but leverage the same architecture and data strategy as Gilly Eilish. And by getting it right the first time, it makes it a lot easier to scale and actually adjust your data strategy for those different purposes of the LLMs you want to implement in your business.
Great. So thank you, Jackie, for joining us today. And I'd just like to say that, AI is only as smart as the signals that we give it. So if we want better decisions, better predictions, better outcomes, then it starts with treating our data like the premium real estate it deserves to be. Jackie, thank you again for bringing the clarity. Thank you for bringing Gilly and Tank Ocean. I'm intrigued to meet Cod Sheeran and Prawn Legend maybe in the next episode. And to everyone here, thanks for joining us at WERXFEST. Keep exploring, keep building, and remember, before you model, clean your fish tank.